Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first of the 4 workshop series in the design challenge for Are You Safe? This challenge has been conceptualized by Red Dot Foundation, QUT Design Lab, and the Consulate General of Australia in Mumbai. And we're really pleased because this has been a labor of effort and love for the last 4 months, I think. So we started talking about it in July, working on it, and here we are. I know last week some of you attended the inaugural session so that you could learn Discord and get to know each other. But we are really excited and thrilled because today is a very important day. Today marks the start of what is known as 16 days of activism to end gender-based violence. And the length of this program really is from today, which is 25th November to the 10th of December, where it spans all 16 days. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is ElsaMarie DSilva. I'm the founder of Red Dot Foundation. And I love working with young people, love creating all these design challenges, hackathons to engage youth, because I believe that in creatively thinking and creatively designing solutions, we can actually make that shift happen very quick. So before we dive in, we are still waiting for a couple of people to join. But I'd like you to introduce yourself in the chat section and maybe use one word of how you are feeling this morning. So please go ahead and use the chat section. So Kasturi says, very good. Where are you from, Kasturi? Which city? Tirupati. Wow, that's great. So I have not yet met any youth from Tirupati. And so it's exciting to see that there are people who've heard about our work over there and have decided to, join the challenge. Okay, I'm just going to make somebody a co-host. So just give me a second. Great. No one else wants to use the chat section. Oh, Kajal, until welcome, Kajal. Kajal was a volunteer and then a team member and then was a volunteer with us for a long time. She's from Haryana and she, of course, is joining the University of Sydney next year. So excited for her. Aishwarya from Kerala. Wonderful. So good, a lot of people are feeling optimistic, active, excited, great. Hi, Aditya. So we are also very thrilled because out of 54 participants, we have 35 women and pretty much a high number of young men. And I do believe that these interactive challenges where we look at a problem from all angles really helps design better solutions. So what is the design challenge for Are You Safe? It really is looking at the problem of sexual and gender-based violence, but from a bystander intervention lens. Can we actually influence bystanders to be more active and make that change happen? So you may not be a victim, you may not be a perpetrator, but you're definitely often a bystander. And often we don't know what to do in such situations. And therefore, we choose to look the other way. And in a way, we abet the crime in taking place. So through these workshops, what is expected of you is to understand the problem, look at various techniques through the master classes and the various workshops that we have, on how bystanders can be engaged to take action, what has already been done, what has already worked, and then design your own digital artifacts. So each team has to come up with 4 30-second reels. So 4 30-second stories that will either go up on Instagram or YouTube. So 2 on Instagram, 2 on YouTube. And it's going to be fun, but it's also, it has a serious component to it. And it's a very relevant topic, like I mentioned. So today and tomorrow we have master classes. Next Thursday, Friday, we have master classes. On the 30th and the 4th, we have office hours. Should you, have any doubts, run into difficulties. And we are expected to submit your 4 reels as a team by next Sunday, which is 5th. We'll have a jury that will look at it. And on the 10th, which is the end of 16 days, we will have a final event where we will pick the 3 top digital artifacts. But we intend showcasing these at Kala Ghoda in February, all these. So you will have time to fine tune them for February. And then in February, if you're in Bombay, you're most welcome to come to Kala Ghoda Art Fest. It's an in-person event this year. Unfortunately, it's not online. I'm saying unfortunately because I know many of you are not from Bombay, but we are also happy that it's in person because we get to meet people and we also get them to see many people come to this Kala Ghoda Art Fest. So it's a great place to showcase these reels. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to invite Joel Adset to say a few words. Joel Adset is the Vice Consul at the Australian Consulate General, Mumbai. And prior to his posting to India, he worked on Australia's international response to the COVID-19 pandemic and Australia's engagement with the World Trade Organization. Joel holds a Bachelor of Laws and Bachelor of Business Finance from the Queensland University of Technology. That's a lovely coincidence. Outside of work, Joel maintains a keen interest in photography and looks forward to traveling across India in pursuit of the perfect shot. I'm sure if he comes to your city, you can volunteer to give him a city tour and show him all the secret spots that many people don't really know about. This is a beautiful thing. Joel, I hope you find many of these wonderful spots. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Elsa, for that very warm introduction, and good morning, everyone. It's really wonderful to be here with you all today. And on behalf of myself and the Australian Consulate, I'd like to again welcome you to the Are You Safe Design Challenge. As Elsa said, this series is timed to coincide with the UN's 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, which is a really incredibly important initiative. And I know something that Australia takes really seriously. Australia is committed to promoting gender equality globally and across our region and here in India. Australia is funding a number of programs that address and prevent gender-based violence by providing things such as essential services, supporting women's-based organisations, building expertise, and developing the capacity to conduct research. And I think to this end, the Design Challenge will provide all of you with a really fantastic opportunity to learn from experts such as Elsa in India and from Michael in Australia, as well as for you to all sort of develop your own networks amongst yourselves and develop some solutions that I have no doubt will lead to some real and lasting change. And I'm personally really excited to see some of the solutions and some of those 30-second reels that you all develop over the next 16 days. I think it's an absolutely fantastic initiative, Elsa, and looking forward to seeing the results. So again, I'd just like to say thank you to the Red Dot Foundation, Duck, and to QUT for collaborating with the Consulate to deliver what I think is a really impactful challenge. So thank you very much, and back to you, Elsa.
Thank you, Joel. So I'm now going to hand it over to my colleague, Tanya and Sonali, who will invite a couple of teams to share their team charter, because those of you who missed the last session, they were introduced to their teams and they had to prepare their team charter. You still have time till tomorrow to prepare your team charter. So over to you, Sonali and Tanya.
Hi, thanks, Elsa. Hi, good morning, everyone. And yes, so I'm going to call on Kushagra from Team 1 to present his team charter first. Kushagra, are you there? Yeah, hi,
Yes,
Kushagra.
good morning, everyone. I'm Kushagra, and my team's name is Team Murphy. So all of us are from the same college, and the first concept that we were taught in the orientation was the concept of Murphy. That is, if anything is supposed to go wrong, it will definitely be going wrong. So inspiring from that, we named our team as Team Murphy. Now coming to the charter, I'll be driving the team. Our expectations from each member in the team is to be proactive in participation. The common trouble that we expect all of us to face is lack of time to spend because of college hours, and given that we have our semester 1 exams coming up very soon. The obstacles are that we have not worked on a design project before. So like this is very new to us, but yes, we're looking forward to it. The energy source is the empathy for gender-based violence. A lot of us have already worked for a lot of NGOs who provide solutions for these on ground and off ground both. Team values are to provide quality and precise solutions, given that we are advertising students. My team members include Tanisha, Nikita, Nikhila, and me. Our team goals are to understand gender-based violence in depth, as well as customize the designs to provide the most relevant interventions.
Thanks, Kushagra. And can you just once again tell us where y'all are located and which college?
Ma'am, we are from School of Branding and Advertising from Mumbai. But yes.
Narsimanji, Bombay.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for that overview. And time is always a challenge. It is for me as well as for you. But you know, what I've realized is, and the young people who've gone through innovation challenges or design challenges with us or anyone, these are skills that you can always use in your everyday life and even in your studies. So I hope that this experience is useful to you. Thank you so much. Do we have another team who will present?
Yes, we do, Elsa. We have Sanjali from team number 6 who is going to present next. Sanjali Chandula, yeah.
Yeah, hi. I can only share my screen after Kushagra is done.
Yes, ma'am. I've completed my charter.
So can I go ahead?
Yes.
Yes.
So hi everyone, my name is Sanjali and me and my teammates are from NMIMS University in Bombay. We're all in the same class currently and we're completing our BTech in computer science. So we named our team Squadron, which sort of signifies the first flight we take towards anything design related together. And our driver is one of our classmates, Bhavya. The expectations we had coming into this challenge was just exploring the power of solving pressing issues in society today with design and exploring the various possibilities of developing things that can make our streets safer. So while keeping this in mind, we had certain obstacles that could come into perspective, mainly being that when we're working together, sometimes it's hard to sort of consider, you know, the people you're working with and their perspective. So leading to clouded judgment or maybe not being able to identify the pain points thoroughly enough. Our team values are sort of based around our ability to learn from each other, encourage each other, and have respect and open communication with what the other person thinks as well. Our energy source is all of us in some aspect are interested in design, and we trust in each other's judgment. Troubles that we could face could be that all of us are actually sitting in different locations even right now. So logistics and internet connection issues and all of that. And something that we wish to drive from this experience would be to hone our design skills and sort of come up with creative solutions to help social issues that could be pressing today. So thank you.
Thanks, Sanjali. I think that's really interesting. I love the names. I love Squadron. I love Murphy and the explanation behind it. May I ask one team that has done the template? I think it was the next team, 7. If they would like to come and share. Yes, Kavita says, I love the clarity in the team charter. Great. So those of you, you can still work on it if you haven't completed it. But if there is one who's completed the template, like done it on the template itself, maybe we can just put you on the spot and ask you to come and share. Maybe team 7. Ria, I think I saw you there, Chetna. Medha is the driver. Is Medha there?
Ma'am, I think I'll take that up since we don't have a lot of members from our team here right now. So, of course, to name out our team members, do we have that mentioned here? Our expectations are to complete this design in the allotted time, of course. My driver would be Medha. Our team values are to think big and start small. So the fact that all of us are from different cities, we're meeting for the first time here and we don't know each other. We've not had a thorough introduction with each other yet. And we are so excited to do this together and to get to know each other. That is something which is our value. It speaks that a cause, no matter how big or how small, can literally join people from the whole world. Right now, we belong to the same country, but of course. And ma'am, of course, there are a lot of obstacles that might be coming on our way. Our energy source, I think it's not visible here, but our energy source would be our fellow teammates who seeing the kind of work that they are doing would inspire us. And our team goals would be to complete the design challenge in the allotted time, of course.
Thank you, Ria. And yes, I mean, part of this online opportunity, I would call it, is that we can work with people from different cities. Otherwise, you have to fly people everywhere. And I think you can still do some of these things remotely from the comfort of your home. But then the challenge is, of course, you're competing with other priorities. So yeah, so I'm going to invite Kavita and Michael to say a few words before we begin. Kavita?
So I can jump in.
Sure.
Jump in. I guess to begin with, I'm not sure. So I introduced myself last week, but I know some people weren't here. So I'll just reintroduce myself and say, yeah, so my name is Michael Hunter. I'm from QUT Design Lab over in Brisbane. And we've been working really closely with Elsa and Red Dot and Ritu and trying to, I guess, develop this design challenge. I'm really excited to get into it. I think it's obviously an incredibly important issue. And what's really great about design is that we can really use it as a way to kind of, I guess, problem solve from an empathic place and really kind of generate empathy, which I think is really important when we're trying to address these issues. So we've got a whole bunch of activities over the next kind of lot of masterclasses. And I think what is also, I guess, really exciting is we're not really expecting everyone to be designers or that you should come from a design background. So don't be intimidated if you aren't a designer. I think these activities are really well put together and will help you kind of develop these design skills, which then you can apply to all sorts of other problems. But yeah, so that's me. I'm really excited to get into it and looking forward to all the masterclasses and things that we're going to go over.
And Michael, you are an engineer, right?
Yes, yeah. So I'm technically in the School of Computer Science. But I have kind of done a lot of design work in the last couple of years, and I'm slowly transitioning into that as well because I really love that sort of stuff. So.
And we will hear from you on your project on next Thursday, right? So
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks. Kavita, are you back in a place where we can see you?
Yes, sorry about that. Hi, everyone. My name is Kavita Gonsalves. I'm a researcher here with QUT Design Lab, and I've been working very closely with Elsa, the rest of the RDF team, Tanya, Webavi, Sheila, etc. And also very closely with Michael on putting together this program. And we're very excited to be working with you. And seeing what you come up with. Just building on what Michael said, we're really not looking, I guess, don't be overwhelmed, by everything that is going to be shared with you on Discord, on Zoom. Take what you find is useful. Obviously, do your research. I think one of the best parts about challenges like this is that you very quickly get to do a deep dive into research and then figure out what that what kind of intervention that you're trying to create or design. One of the most exciting parts in my work is I come with a design background. I've been an architect for the past, 10 odd years, I guess, more than that. And I've played design researcher as well. And I guess one of the things I love doing is going from research to design and then coming back to research to document what it is we're doing well and whatever it is not, we're not doing well, and then going back to design. So I guess what I'm trying to say is like design is not a linear process. It's a very cyclical process. So be open to change, be open to learning new things, be open to changing your mind about things. That's one of the fun things we get to do here. And also have fun. I think, you get to meet new people over here. You get to learn new things, hear new perspectives, but really just have fun, and that will reflect in your work. So I'll hand over back to Elsa now.
Thank you, Kavita. And, all of us come from different backgrounds. I come from aviation, and then 9 years ago, I started Safecity, became a social entrepreneur and a gender advocate. So, life is never linear as well, just like design. It's a circular process. You keep coming back, learning. Whatever you learn at your early stages then gets reflected later in life. So, all these experiences, in my view, are critical to your leadership journey in the future as well. So looking forward to seeing what you develop. And like Kavita says, please have fun. This is not meant to be serious. I mean, the topic is serious, don't get me wrong, but it's also meant to be a fun event. Okay, so let's start. So like I said, today starts the 16 days challenge. And why does the world have a 16 days to end gender-based violence? Because it is a major social issue. We are living through a pandemic, COVID-19, but sexual harassment and abuse and violence is often called a pandemic too. So today's agenda is to understand. In my presentation, I'll be covering the relevance of gender sensitivity in the 21st century, understanding a little bit about unconscious bias and challenging it, understanding power structures, because even when we are talking about bystander intervention, why don't people intervene? What is stopping them from, raising their voice? Or why does the victim not raise her voice or his voice? Understanding consent, which is again a very big part of this problem, and power asymmetries, and of course Safecity. So some guidelines. You're with us for another 1.5 hours, so switch off your mobile phone, keep an open mind, listen with empathy, do not judge. We'll be sharing a lot of examples in this room. So it's like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, same thing over here. If later you want to do some peer educating, you can quote examples but without naming names. If you have a trigger warning because we are talking about really deep stuff, let us know. And we might be taking, we are recording this session of course, but we might also be taking screenshots. So why is it still a relevant topic? Not only because today is the start of 16 days, but it's a deeper problem, right? And I'm going to give you 3 international examples. So some months ago, there was this incident where the European Commission president and so one is the president of the Commission, one is the president of the Union. They went to visit the president of Turkey, but there were only 2 seats available. And that created a little bit of a diplomatic hoo-ha. And you can watch the video where Ursula von der Leyen, who is the woman, was completely sidelined, though she is an equivalent rank, and she said she wasn't expecting it, and though she, and in fact it's a great one, because the 2 men were just bystanders in a way. They did not intervene. They could have done something. They could have asked for a 3rd chair. They could have stopped the press conference. So many things could have been done. Then you had the last year's presidential elections in the US, where you had the then vice president interrupting Kamala Harris, the vice presidential candidate, several times. And that's now, there's a word for it called man-interrupting. And that's not a new thing. It happens in boardrooms, it happens in parliament, and it happens all the time, where women and their opinions may not be considered. And then you had Esther Duflo, who won the Nobel Prize along with her husband Abhijit Banerjee and a 3rd person. But when it was reported in the Indian press, all they spoke about was Abhijit Banerjee and his wife. But Esther Duflo, in her own right, deserved the recognition because she is the youngest person to win this prize, along with being the first French woman and only the 2nd woman ever to win the prize in economics. She is also the 53rd woman to win the Nobel Prize. 850 men have won the Nobel before. So, you can see how subtle this, non-recognition of the contribution of some sections of society are in force, right? And that's due to unconscious bias. There are over 150 biases. We do regular workshops on this, but just to very quickly go through it, some of the biases could be an affinity bias, where you choose people who are like you. Confirmation bias, sometimes people do things and in your mind it's confirming to a particular kind of behavior, so it's confirmation bias. Attribution bias, whether that person does it or not, you sometimes expect them to do certain things because they come from a certain background. That's attribution bias. Conformity bias, then there's the halo and the horn effect, and you can read on it. But there is a gender bias as well, right? So why do we have these biases? And we have to constantly, when we wake up in the morning, question ourselves whether we are biased. Because our brains use a 2 thinking system that operates simultaneously. We like to put things in boxes. It's like black and white, no grays. And so it just gets wired in our system because that's how our brain thinks. They like to look for patterns. And so they slot people into these patterns. And then they get wired and they are reinforced by these biases, right? But the good thing is biases can be unlearned as well, but you need to question them. And why are we talking about this? Because when we talk about sex, sexuality, gender-based violence, we have to understand where is it coming from? Why is it happening all the time? And it's a complex problem. It's not simple. If you look at this gender-bred person, and we'll post some video links for you in Discord, which you can watch at your leisure, these are all spectrums. That means they are never one or the other. You could be on a spectrum when it concerns your identity, the way you think in your head, how you define your gender, how you align with it, right? So you could be either on the spectrum of womanness or manness on 2 ends. or you could be expressing it in the feminine or the masculine or somewhere in between. Then what you're born with, that's your biological sex. That is your chromosomes, right? So you're born female, male, or you could be intersex. Who you're attracted to and who you're romantically attracted to. So sexually attraction and romantically attracted to, they are two separate things. So as you can see, you could be on one end, on one spectrum, you could be in the middle of something else and on the other end of another. So it's very, very complicated. And as people become more aware, especially on college campuses, these things start to manifest itself. So you cannot always assume that you know somebody. So that's why we have to look for our biases and we have to question it. So know how to deal with your bias, know that they exist, read about it. It's always constantly checking, am I being biased or not? Okay, and then be mindful in your words and actions. Think critically, attend to data and evidences. Never look at it as a coin, one or the other side, but rather as a diamond which has multiple facets to it. And challenge assumptions and traditions. Try taking a contrary view, ask the question why not. They say ask the question 5 whys till you get it, right? Again, looking at the power and privilege wheel, if today all of us are here on this call for the design challenge, it's because we have some kind of privilege. We have an internet connection, we can speak English, we are part of networks of colleges that have received this invitation. So who is not here today? We have to be constantly thinking about that. And we as Red Dot also constantly think about it. So don't think that we haven't thought about it. We do also offer these challenges in rural communities in languages other than English as well. And RIA was part of a youth innovation challenge recently where we had members from rural Maharashtra, and we did do some of the sessions in English, and we gave them mentors who spoke Marathi and Hindi so that they are not left out. So we have to constantly think of ways where we can, you know, make it inclusive to a level that everybody is at the same level playing field. But to understand this power circle, you have to look at who is at the center. Because the more you are in the center on one dimension or more, you have privilege in that area. So you could be rich, you could speak English, you could be a citizen of a country, it could be the color of your skin, it could be the shape of your body, it could be your mental health, your physical health, your sexuality, etc. But also remember, it's never one or the other. You could be privileged in one area and you could be not privileged in another area. For example, I am a woman, so maybe in some places my gender might make me more vulnerable to certain things, but if I have an education, if I speak English, I may have more privileges than somebody who doesn't speak English and who may not come from the same economic background that I am in. So why is it again important? Because with power and privilege comes the responsibility to not perpetrate abuse and violence on other people. And there are many different ways that that can be done where you perpetrate violence, consciously or unconsciously. So there's physical abuse, there's also using privilege, using isolation, emotional abuse, financial abuse, economic abuse, using children, there's sexual abuse, there's minimizing, denying, blaming, coercion, and threats. So all kinds of things happen. Here are some of the examples. Maybe in the chat section, you might want to also put down some of the things that you have experienced. So for example, if somebody is using their privilege to control you, they may treat you like a servant. They may make all the big decisions. They may act like the master of the castle. And they might define how you have to behave as well. Somebody who minimizes you, denies you, or blames you, they make light of the abuse. They do not take your concerns seriously. They said, oh, the abuse did not happen. they shift responsibility for their behavior and they make you the cause of the abuse. Emotional abuse. They put you down, they humiliate you, they call you names, they play mind games, they make you feel bad about yourself, they make you think that you are crazy. But all of this, some of this, you can't pinpoint because there is no physical action, right? So it's worth taking some time to just understand this wheel and the way it manifests itself. Now, the sad bit is, again, coming back to 16 days, we are in a society where 1 in 3 women on an average globally around the world experience sexual assault at least once in their lifetime. This is pandemic proportions. Unfortunately, more than half of these happen to children below the age of 16, and yet 80% of the time they are never reported to the police. Again, there's a range starting from non-verbal to verbal to physical, so staring, ogling, taking pictures, indecent gestures, and these are only some of them because you also saw the power and abuse wheel, right? There's commenting, catcalling, sexual assaults, invites, touching, groping, rape. Now, some of these might be considered too trivial and therefore not important to report, but they contribute to a rape culture, and therefore it becomes normalized over a period of time and people think that it's part of our daily routine. But it could be extremely debilitating to many, where you might change your mobility, you might choose to limit your options. So girls stop going to school, or they compromise on their educational institutions by choosing a place closer to their home, not the best college in town because they have to travel far. They may even change their pattern of transport or walking. They may change their route. But in some places where we work, like in Kibera, Nairobi, if somebody changes their route, they actually could run the risk of being kidnapped and then trafficked. So why is this important, understanding all of it, and this rape culture, victim blaming culture? Because there's under communication. People don't report, they stay silent, they don't speak up, and society also expects them to be silent and passive and not raise an alarm, because it's often linked to honor for themselves and their families. This underreporting is not good because the perpetrator gets bolder over a period of time, and it starts maybe with the ogling, staring, touching, but then they become a little bolder to maybe perpetrate sexual assault. Because there's no communication, there's no official reporting, there's under enforcement of the law, because there's no statistics in the police station, so law enforcement is not compelled to investigate any crime or take any action. And this further generates this whole culture of lack of respect, and it's a vicious circle, and it creates a cycle of insecure cultures. So that's why 9 years ago, along with some friends, I launched Safecity, which is a crowd map. You can check it out. Go to either the Play Store on Android and iOS and download it, or go to the web app, webapp.safecity.in. You'll see all the incidences. Now we have for pretty much all of India. What we do is we encourage anonymous reporting and sharing and documenting of personal incidents. These are then plotted on a map as hotspots, and the idea is to make it visible, bridge the data gap, but also give you information that is useful at your individual level so that you can be more situationally aware. This is very important when it comes to crime, and sexual violence is a crime under Indian law. But also as a community, can we take actions to make our neighborhood safer, and can we also work with the authorities to be more accountable in creating safe spaces? So this is what it looks like when you want to report. On the left hand side you can zoom in right up to the street level. On the right hand side you can read some of these reports. You can also share your report. This is our October data, and if you see the breakdown, what is being reported maximum is touching, groping, followed by chain snatching and robbery, then stalking, commenting, sexual assaults, sexual invites, oglings, and then you go round the circle, right? So, but if touching and groping is the number one, how are you going to deal with it? Now, is that the same solution as taking photos without permission or online harassment? No. Knowing the breakdown of what these incidents are and where they are happening, plus the time of day and day of week, is very important in creating solutions. So that's why our crowd map is really important, and we will also share the data set with you in Discord in case you want to analyze it. We'll also share the dashboards from our site so that you can look at it and then think about creative solutions, right? How have we used this kind of data? So for individuals, like I said, not many people experience it, but they don't speak up. So looking at the crowd map and where it's happening, you can identify specific areas where you want the interventions to happen. So this particular incident was near a tea stall in Delhi where, tea stalls are men-only spaces. Have you seen women hanging around drinking tea? Not really, unless it's a college, outside a college campus, right? Or maybe in Bombay office spaces. But in other cities, you will hardly find any women drinking tea. So here also in Delhi, in this particular neighborhood, it was a male-only space, and the men would loiter, hang around, stare at the women and girls passing by, pass comments. And when asked what would they like to change about their neighborhood, they said, we want the staring to stop, we want the loitering to stop. Now, in a culture where it's very hard to speak up, how do you do it? So we started with what we call talking walls. So these are wall murals. And this is a long wall where they painted staring eyes, subtle messaging that says, look with your heart, not with your eyes. We will speak up. We will break our silence. We will not be intimidated by your gaze. And all of this is not actually speaking up, but talking through the walls. And they painted big staring eyes. And it serves the same function as, where you have both saying, beware of the dog, or here's a CCTV camera. It kind of helps people, helps to put them on notice and say, we are watching you. And it really had an impact, But in other places, you can use a street theater or, like, for example, these reels to help people break their silence and open up. Communities. If you knew what was happening in your neighborhood, is it easier to have that dialogue rather than going with your personal story and then waiting for somebody to blame you, saying you wore the wrong clothing, you were in the wrong place, you made it happen? Whereas when you're looking at a data set and the trends and patterns and no naming, shaming or blaming, can you really look objectively and figure out, okay, why is this happening? What can be done to solve it? And also working with the stakeholders like police, civic authorities, railway authorities, college campus authorities, parents, teachers, etc., bringing them in to the discussion. We've had religious leaders who've come in and then spoken to the men and boys, etc. So these are our coordinates. I'm going to stop my share right now, but I'm happy to answer any questions before we turn it to Ritu to talk about how she has helped us use tech in empathetic design.
I actually wanted to know if there are certain bystander protocols for all these, for the harassment circle that we saw. Were there any bystander protocols for each of them?
So Tanisha, we will be actually rolling out a whole bystander intervention workshop, and we can share with you, the 5 Ds. So documentation is definitely one of them, right? But distract, for example, you can distract. And I would say don't limit yourself to the 5 Ds also. You can creatively think about it without putting yourself at risk. The first thing is, what are the options available to me? Second is, who am I putting at risk, including yourself? Okay, can you do it without putting yourself at risk? And again, always being mindful of your power and privilege, because again, when you impose a solution, you have to think about how is it going to impact the other people, right? So so we will share some of that information with you, but I would say that for everything there can be at least 5 different options, and with the collective brains in this room, we can think about many more as well. That's really the power of the collective. So Varun, the Safecity heat map, you can go to webapp.safecity.in and you can check it out for your city, for India, for the whole world. We have a smattering of reports from other countries, but really detailed reports in India. Aishwarya says, Elsa, really curious to know your venture on Safecity, how it started, and the courage to step out from the corporate sector. I'll send you my TED talk. It's a long, another half an hour session, but we don't have time today. What I can tell you is that sometimes there are moments in your life where you have to take a stand, and my stand was I didn't want to be just participate on social media protests or participate in candlelight vigils after the Nirbhaya rape. Safe City was a response to that particular incident. So in a way, it was a bystander intervention that then became a solution on its own. So you can check out some of my website and some of the articles and videos that are there. Okay, so any other questions?
Yes, Elsa, I have a question regarding what is the expected outcome of this design challenge? Like, I mean,
So we need 4 reels. That means
okay.
4 videos of 30 seconds each,
Uh-huh.
aimed at bystander intervention. Your choice. Whatever you
Okay.
want to do. Okay?
Okay.
So between 30 seconds and 1 minute, but try to keep it shorter because attention spans are very short. So the quicker you get to the message, the more effective it is, right?
Yes, so obviously it should include some sort of problem as well as the solution.
Yes, but don't make it general because I told you there's so many different kinds, right? So you can
Uh-huh.
pick touching, groping, or you can pick taking pictures without consent. You could take online harassment. You could take, I mean, there are so many, and I can make this presentation available to you as well so you can look at the different forms of it. You can take the power privilege wheel as well, where there's, financial exclusion. People don't often think of it as sexual violence, but yes, if it is linked with gender and it is used to isolate people from resources, it is in a way violence, right, and abuse.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
So Tanisha, if you want to be a volunteer, you just inform the team and they will let you know. But I would say for this month, just focus on your design challenge. We have lots and lots of opportunities for you to volunteer. In fact, after this design challenge, you can work with us to fine tune your reels so that we have great material for Kala Ghoda. Remember, Kala Ghoda has lakhs of people walking through in the 1 week, so your material is going to be educational for them on how they will be better bystanders to end this violence. That's why we really want to use your storytelling skills. And next Friday, Supreet will do a session on storytelling, to help you fine tune your messages. So I am going to turn it over to Ritu, who is going to share with you when you create tech solutions, and digital artifacts are tech solutions, how do you keep a user in mind and how do you create empathetic tech? So over to you, Ritu.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Yes.
Hi. Really good to have all of you here. Excuse me, I have a bit of a niggle in my throat, so I might clear it several times. I really wanted to talk to you guys about empathy. I started off using data to design experiences for national security. This is back in 2005, and studied actuarial science using numbers to try and figure out how people experience digital interfaces, how people experience life online. This was right at the beginning where in 2005, not many of us were online, and it wasn't a way of life as much as it is now. I think in my sort of 15 odd years of working in this space, the number one most important thing on whether any piece of tech is successful or not is based on empathy. Did the people creating, designing, developing the tech even have a think about, you know, who's the user, what is their frame of mind, what is their belief system, what are they thinking, what are they feeling, what are they saying that they're thinking and feeling? If you've ever had a relationship with someone, you know that the thinking and feeling and saying aren't always aligned. So, you know, you've got to really look beyond the veneer. So these are a few things that I want to take you through today and give you some concrete examples, some fun ones. We designed a gifting website for people who really struggle to give their significant others interesting presents. So how do you play empathy into that sort of design, which is a lot more fun? And perhaps it's not a problem for everyone, but there are people out there for whom gifting is potentially the most traumatic experience of their year. When their significant others' birthday comes around, they're really, really nervous and really stressed. So yeah, this website did help people and it was solving a problem. And then the second one was we were engaged by some banks on how to make their banking portals more senior friendly. And the third one that I'd want to talk to you about is Safecity, which is by far the most interesting, impactful and rewarding design that I've ever done. And, you know, how do we allow for survivors of gender-based and domestic violence to share their experiences without feeling unsafe. And that also online on a small screen like a mobile phone. So I'll take you through these experiences and talk to you about how we you know, sprinkled empathy through it. And I understand that your outcome is making a reel, and I think that's really awesome. I think if anything has legs, you know, to be seen and heard, it is something like a reel. And we can talk a little bit about how empathy can play a role in creating something like that. I personally have not created much content like that, so I'd love to, you know, learn together on how we can apply design principles to that and how we can apply empathy. I will share my screen. Just a minute. All right. Can you guys see tech and empathy on my screen? Okay, super. So every good presentation starts off with some level of definition, right? So it's basically a deep understanding. Empathy is a deep understanding of the problems and realities of the people we're designing for. So even if you're making a reel, right? Who is your audience? Who are you targeting? What are you trying to influence? A lot of times as a designer, I'm brought on to get people to buy things, you know, e-commerce. Or are we, in this case, changing people's civic sense? Are we changing people's value systems? And can you really change value systems? And is that ethical? The first thing I can say, and I hope that, you guys do this with your reels as well, is test with anyone and everyone, test with strangers, because we tend to gather in groups that are similar to us, even though we think that our neighbor is completely different and crazy for the way that they make, I don't know, curry or whatever, and how can they use this spice and not that spice, that they're very similar to you. We tend to congregate as human beings in similar pockets. So try and find as many strangers as possible, and strangers from different worlds. I think one of the most exciting things in life is to be able to watch someone respond and react to something that you've created. So there are lots of tools online that help me with tech products, tools like Hotjar that record the online experience of users, and then you can sort of see where they're going, and you can draw inferences. But to take it a step further, there are a few tools in the market today that allow you to see the person's face, while of course this is all consensual. You can see the person's face while they're looking at your product, your technology, your reel or whatever, and look at their micro expressions, and sort of it captures changes. So although we may appear as very stoic, we give away what we truly feel by, split-second changes in your face. So for example, that's surprise, someone raises their eyebrows, it's probably surprise. All of these microfacial expressions are based in cultural statistical significance. So this may not be surprise in every culture, but mostly it is surprise. Disgust is a very easy one to spot, and it's what all of the police and national security people in airports are trained to see. It's one where you sort of do this with your nose. So these are little things that you've got to look out for when you're interviewing a subject or watching them, watching a user interact with your product or your media in this case. Sorry for the typo. I think Elsa touched upon the 5 whys. If you've ever chatted to a child, you know that they have this annoying capacity to keep asking why questions. I want you to channel your inner child and ask why. So if someone says, I'm not, I've never, I don't feel confident stepping up and interfering in someone's business. If you're talking about bystander behavior, you can say why. If they respond with, I don't know if it's appropriate, I don't know, what if I get hurt? And you keep asking why, and you get to the bottom of beliefs. So I think why is a big one here, and we need to ask why a lot. Try and stop asking why if they start getting frustrated though. And I feel that, we will get all these insights and it gets a bit overwhelming, but there are ways and tools where you can, I think you'll learn this through the design thinking workshops, how to identify insights and club them, and how do you understand needs and problems, right? I want us all to understand one thing. We see the world only through our prism. We're incapable of seeing the world completely through someone else's lens. But what we can understand is that we don't have the same lived experiences. We don't have the same value system. We don't have the same experiences as other people. So we need to dump assumptions, even simple assumptions that, if a person is catching a bus, they want to go to another point. They may be on the bus because they're bored and they don't have a safe space to hang out. So the most basic assumptions need to be dumped. One of the things I want to take you through, where I hope you can feel a little bit of pain and fear and confusion along with users, is something that elderly people were asked to do suddenly in April 2020, when we went into lockdown and they couldn't go to their banks anymore. And they had to transfer money online for things like rent, electricity, the basics. They had to buy groceries by transferring money online. And I want you to imagine that you have not really opened a website before, apart from email potentially. And now you are being asked to transfer money for, say, your food. So if you bank with HDFC, great bank, one of the best online experiences, and I'm using them to show you what the top end looks like. We had a lot of senior users typing in HDFC Bank into Google in order to transfer money to somebody. The first thing that comes up is a pop-up that asks whether HDFC can send you notifications or not. At this point, seniors were already stumped. They didn't know what this means, right? Is this a good thing? Are they going to lose their money? You see, banking is a really stressful place because you have the downside is really, really high. The downside is all the things that people warn you about, that, oh, you'll get scammed or you'll give your password somewhere and you lose all your money. But here it's survival, right? So this is already something that made a lot of seniors very, very nervous. For someone who's younger, with a different lived experience online, this may not be such a stumbling block. It's also something that is not HDFC's choice. It's a browser setting. So how do you overcome this? So there's a little arrow here that says allow button, just to guide. Imagine you land on this and you're told you have to transfer money. I mean, how many of you would know where to go, given you're digitally native? You don't even have a username or password. You don't know what to do, right? This is really, really overwhelming. One of the challenges that you may have is, how do I make this? So this is one of the things I'll talk about later, but how do I create a uniform experience for people who have never transferred money online and are very anxious about it? And how do I create an experience for people who do this every day? So how do I create a uniform experience for these different personas? So this is a question I get asked a lot because we care about privacy and we don't always know who's accessing. So for example, with your reel, who's watching it? You're not sure. You're not sure who's watching it, but yet you are told to design for different personas. So this is a challenge that a lot of people have, and we can come up with ways on how to overcome for this challenge of uniform experiences with designed for different users. So I'm going to get out of the relatively stressful space of online banking into a more fun space of people wanting to buy gifts for their significant others, right? This was one of the more fun challenges that we've had in the last year during COVID. And I just wanted to show you some of the ways in which we mapped the users. So there was a guy called Leon. He said that shopping is stressful. He thinks, will my girlfriend love me more if I buy her a gift that is thoughtful and shows effort? What he's done in the past is give her 3 sets of scrapbooks for the 3 years that they've been together. So one may think that she's not going to be, overly delighted with a scrapbook this year. He feels very insecure about the gifting process. And it pains him that there's no quick fix because he's used to not putting in that much effort online, right? And once he gives what does he stand to gain? Once he gives a good gift and his girlfriend, appreciates it a lot, he gets a self-esteem boost. So a couple of questions for us is, this is a way that we quickly visualize the customer's needs. I'm sure that you learn more about methods like this through the course. Also, so there's a team of about 10 people designing this, say. I'm not sure how many of you are in a group, but if one person creates this, what does Leon say, think, do, feel? What are his pains and what are his gains? Not everyone is going to have the same map. Not everyone's going to have the same empathy map. So how do you work with your teammates in an empathetic way to align people? And it takes a lot of humility and courage to not push your own agenda, but to actually also help people who perhaps have a great idea, but aren't able to verbalize it very well. So you really got to put yourselves into their minds, and perhaps someone comes in with, what Leon feels is that he's not good enough for his girlfriend and he needs to give her, amazing things to feel relevant. I may not agree with that, but how do I get to the base? So it's the 5 whys again, they really are helpful in, teamwork as well. So don't lose out on the 5 whys just when you're talking to users or potential viewers of your reel. So you'll be learning this a bit later, but I want to talk to you about how important it is to have these journey maps and to really introduce different perspectives and points of view in a tactile manner. How important it is to use, things like Mural or other boards that allow for digital teamwork. In person, we waste a lot of Post-it notes, but there is a reason why we use these tools. It's really helpful to allow everyone equal footing, to allow people to share ideas and not feel judged. And it's really important to diagnose pain points and identify opportunities. So a first pain point in the HDFC example would be, I don't know whether I need to accept these settings or not, which is not something that is relevant to the website in particular, it's a browser setting. So how do you overcome for that as a design issue when you have you can't change it, right? So what was done was just a little bit of a arrow to say accept, and if you put too much thought into it that, oh, should we tell them what happens if they accept? And there's always a positive to sharing a lot of information, but it also overwhelms people. So that's a real knife's edge that you're always at, that how ethically, overt am I, and how much do I really tell the user versus how much do I want this to be fast for the user, because their main pain point is too much information, right? And also, is the user at that time using their complete brain? So a lot of research has been done to show that the percentage of our brain that we use when online, especially in lean back. So there are 2 types of online modes. One is lean forward. So I'm leaning forward right now. You can see that physically because I'm talking to you. Perhaps you're leaning forward when you're online banking, but when you're on Instagram, you're definitely leaning back. So that's a bit of empathy you can have for your user. If they're leaning forward, more of their brain is engaged. If they're leaning back, they're chilling. They want to consume, but they're only using like 2% of their brain. So if a 6-year-old understands what you're doing online, that's sort of the thumb rule for us at the Data Duck on design. So if a 6-year-old can navigate your product, then you're good to go. A 6-year-old that with the same language skills, of course, so first languages of English would help a lot. Yeah, so I want to talk to you about Safecity now, which, as I said, was one of the most exciting design challenges we've had. I'm just wondering, are you guys getting some feedback from me? No? Okay. I think I'm the only one who hears it. So how do you personalize an experience for anonymous users? One of the challenges and really exciting things about Safecity is in an age where everyone asks us, how much can I track the user? Give me, I want to know all their browsing data the minute they land on the website. How do I know whether the user is looking to buy something? How many luxury products have they bought before? What sort of colors do they like? So we are working on an e-commerce website where, or actually, let me tell you this, which may be more relevant to you. Have you guys ever been on Netflix and realized that the tile you have for the show is different to the tile that your friend sees? So for example, Seinfeld is a show that I've watched about 3-4 times during the lockdown. And on my husband's computer, it shows Kramer and it says Seinfeld. On mine, it shows Elaine. So Netflix knows that I am a woman who may enjoy woman-led stories, and serves me content with a different tile. Now, the same is happening for e-commerce. For example, if I am a plus-sized person, they're more likely to show me clothes, the same shirt, this shirt, for example, on a plus-size model than if I were petite. How do I know the minute you land on my website, whether you're plus-sized or petite, if I have no user behavior or data on the site to determine that, right? So that's where, if you see, there are lots of apps that track your movements and they say, let us track your behavior to give you a better personalized experience. And that's exactly the kind of data that we get in. So we get in, is this person, what kind of style do they like? What color do they like? What fonts do they like? So we can completely change the experience to appeal to you personally. Now in Safecity, the challenge was the opposite. We weren't even collecting your IP address. So for example, if you're on webapp.safecity.in and you went on and you started reporting something, and for whatever reason, by mistake, you close the tab, when you open the tab again, you'll have to start from the beginning. Now, that may sound frustrating, but that's an edge case that you close the tab by mistake in the middle. But one of the things that it showed us is that all the personas that we had thought of when doing our design sprint for Safecity, we weren't able to figure out which persona was using the platform. So it's very easy to say, talk about all of these personas, think about who's there, but you have no clue who's actually there. So how do you personalize the experience for anonymous users? And how do you create a uniform product, or for example, a uniform piece of media? So when you're watching television, for example, this is very different online, but when you're watching television, there's no way to say that, okay, this person is watching, so I will serve up this ad. All of us get the same ads I'm sure that it's different according to city and stuff, but it's quite ubiquitous, the viewing experience. Now with Reels, if it were, an ad, you can change who you target. But if it's not an ad and it's content that you're serving up, how do you really personalize that? That's really tough. So if it were an ad, for example, you could say, okay, you could pick the age group, you could pick their experience, how many times do they watch Reels, what sort of content do they like, are they engaged in gender issues? These are the things that you could pick and really target. So yeah, I would like to show you, sorry. Sorry, give me a second. I'd like to show you the Safecity. I'm sorry, I'm like really spluttering through here. I'd like to show you the Safecity experience. And I'd like you to reflect upon a few things. How can we at Safecity ethically gather data to analyze which persona the user is similar to? We can't gather any data on Safecity, but how can we design for different personas by having a one experience fits all, right? So I'm going to take you to the reporting form on Safecity by sharing a different screen. But while we're looking at it, I want you to look at some of the things that we created for. So one of the personas that we had was very overwhelmed, like I look now, when reporting the incident. So when we interviewed some people, they were like, it's very challenging to see a whole list of things and it's too much. So I want one question at a time. What we tried to do was create as much of an in-person experience as possible. So if I'm talking to you in person and asking you about an incident that you would like to anonymously report, I'm not going to say, okay, what's the date and time of the incident? What happened to you? Was anyone there? Did anyone help you? I'm not going to ask all of these questions at once. So to keep it as empathetic as possible and as human-like as possible, we ask one question at a time. There is always tension when you ask one question at a time because it does seem a lot lengthier and people don't really know what the journey is like. So you have to weigh out concerns of, for example, time and not knowing what the journey is like. So that sort of ambiguity and fear with how calming is this one question at a time experience. So there's always a tension. And that's why at the beginning I said, let's test and test and test, because it's only testing and that data that will really help you to choose which tension is stronger. So point number 3 is a progress bar. We tried to overcome the fear of not knowing how many questions and how long this will take by keeping a progress bar at the bottom. I'll jump into that in a second. And we tried to soothe people. So if someone walks in to an NGO to talk about this, anonymously report it, we may not have rock music blaring and have like loud walls and all this sort of stuff. So we tried to create as calming and soothing an experience as possible. Almost like the voice and the background noise is very calming. And one of the things that we found was there was a tension between making the survivor comfortable, but also getting enough data for visualization, data visualization and action. So these are two tensions. And sometimes, you know, there was a lot of talk in the group as to how can you ask someone to categorize their trauma, what happened to you. That is also something that is highly relevant for action and for, you know, the whole circle of Safecity, which is reporting and then consultation with communities and then action and prevention. So I'm just going to take you through it, and I'd love, you know, for you to give me your thoughts. It was an unusual one for us, but it was also very exciting to do. Just a minute.
So, you know, my takeaway from this is one thought. So if you have only 30 seconds in your reel, don't generalize. Go deep, take one topic and go deep into that, you know, because otherwise it's all over the place and it's overwhelming.
All right, I will share my screen again. Just a minute. All right, here we go. So here's the Safecity web app. So there's a lot of data here. One of the things while designing this that we were talking about internally was how do we show the data to decision makers and to survivors, but also get them to report. Some of the things that we focused on strongly was social proof. And we wanted to make this a collective movement. So we used words such as join the 35,000 people who have shared their experiences to make public spaces safer. So it seems like one sentence, but it took us a few days to get there. That opening sentence, why must you share the experience others have and you can make spaces safer? You know, what could you do when you share that experience? It helps us identify patterns and create safer spaces, because someone might be like, really is my story that, how does it matter, right? And why do you want to know this information? So there's a lot of things that we wanted to make people comfortable with. I'm not sure how many people read to the end of this, but we wanted to put it out there. One of the things that I would urge you to think about when making your reels is local language. I think language plays a big decision in how we feel. So even if we're allowed to, you know, even if we're speaking in English, for example, and our mother tongue is, say, Hindi, you will feel different experiences when speaking in English, and different emotions when speaking in English than in Hindi. There was a Mother's Day campaign run by a friend of mine a while ago. And, you know, she's like, the tagline was, what did you get your mother today? Right? And no one was really feeling it. They were like, oh, this is a Western thing. You know, I'm not going to buy something for my mother because of this Western sort of thing. So how do you get someone to buy? She changed it into Hindi and she said, "Maa ke liye kya kiya?" That hit different. It landed different, you know? So I would really urge you to think about testing your reels in different languages, regardless of a person's fluency in any particular language, because we, sorry, I actually can't read Hindi, so I'm gonna have to do this in English, but yeah, we feel emotions differently in different languages. So one of the challenges I felt about, there was a lot of legal aspects to it. So you may want to think about what you can say in your reel as well, not necessarily in a legal way, but in a way that you do not offend people who may hold a particular perspective. It's tough in a short period of time, but it's something that I would like you to think about, ramifications, etc. A lot of people aren't able to share this for themselves, so they ask a friend to report for them. So it was something that was very important. We also have volunteers. I say we because I'm so obsessed with Safecity. Elsa and team also have you know, volunteers who help people who perhaps don't have access to digital platforms, which is something she touched upon earlier about inclusivity. So yeah, people may report for someone else. Once again, legal things are very frustrating. You may say, why does it matter about my age? Why are you asking me all this personal information? It's meant to be anonymous. It is anonymous, but we aren't allowed to collect this information on anyone younger than 18. So before we got into, you know, the reporting, we really had to make sure age was collected. So if you say 17, you can't proceed. Gender is something that, you know, it may seem that, why are you asking this? It's not, you know, I don't want to say so much about myself. The thing is that we run a lot of causations, correlations, etc., on patterns of violence. And if it truly is gender-based, we need to understand whether gender was involved in what your gender is. So this is something we wanted to keep this as conversational as possible. So we wanted people to be able to speak to what happened, you know, and say it in paragraph format. And it's amazed us that people write, you know, thousands of words in this little space. So this was a design decision to leave this as open text. But I won't take you through the whole form, but I just want to tell you at the beginning, every single decision had a lot of tension, and there's never always a right way or a wrong way. But what there is the most optimal way, you know? So I'm really keen to hear about some of perhaps the tensions that you guys are feeling when designing for. So feel free to, drop me an email on any tensions that you're feeling while designing the reel, and any questions that you may have about, when I'm conducting. Okay. So you can drop me an email. Drop me an email if you're having any tensions and you don't know which way to go. The best way is not always, when you test, it's not always that, 9 out of 10 people didn't face this problem, so let's not deal with that 1 out of 10, because that 1 out of 10 may have an impact that is larger. So it's not always, the answer is not always just on a majority. It could be on something very particular. So it's tough, and it requires a consultative approach with your team, because everyone brings a different opinion and a different experience to it, which is very important. So yeah, please ask your team why the 5 times. It may get a bit frustrating to see people asking why like this, but at the end of it, you always get the most distilled response. And yeah, I'm here if you have any questions right now.
There was a question in the chat about why we are not collecting below 18, because the rules are different for children, and if someone is currently below 18, then the POCSO Act comes into play, and we are legally obligated under the law to report that incident, and we cannot then have it as being anonymous. However, you can be now above 18 but reporting in the past, so that is perfectly possible. So Aishwarya, how can you help those below 18? There are many ways. So one is, first understand what is happening. That's what Safecity is here to do, bridge the data gap, and through the data understand what's happening. When you understand the nuances of what's happening, then you can design the intervention. So then you can have peer awareness workshops, you could train teachers and parents, you can talk to children about their experiences. Of course, all of us are trained counselors, so we don't just send people in to talk to children if they have not, done some counseling course, because you need to know how to handle it. But every one of us has a responsibility to create safe spaces, and therefore this design challenge is part of that responsibility in first understanding the problem and then creating that safe spaces through messaging as well. Okay, so without further ado, what I'm going to do is, thank you Ritu for that very interesting presentation on how tech can be made more empathetic, and we also are constantly working on with you to make it more inclusive, especially for people with disabilities, and that's really the next challenge for us. So this is an ongoing process, it's a work in progress, and the more you think about your privilege, the more you will think about how you can use your power to empower. So thank you Ritu for that. I'm just going to show you the slide now for what your assignment is. You have half an hour in your groups to think about. So the first thing is really to think about, have you yourself experienced or witnessed any form of sexual and gender-based violence? This is an individual exercise. So you can just take a pen and paper and draw the scenario. Describe your emotions and how you felt, what happened, who were the people around you, how did they react, and what did you do? Note that this can be a triggering exercise, so do contact us immediately if you feel overwhelmed. Also, I'll say that don't take the worst example, take something that is not so traumatic, because you don't have to share it, but it might come up in this next exercise. So we have 2 persona canvases for you to do. One is of the survivor. Again, this is a survivor. This will be a group exercise, but in order to do the persona canvas for the survivor and the perpetrator, you will need to first think of that incident and all the emotions and what was the scenario, the context in which it happened, and then you have to give the survivor with your group a name, even the perpetrator a name. Okay. Try to give a lot of detail as much as possible so that we can understand who this person is, what were they feeling when they experienced it, what were their fears, what were their hopes, what are the headaches that they have, what is their need, what is the opportunity, what are the positive trends, what is the negative trends. A positive trend could be they can report on Safecity, or that there's more conversation now on sexual assault, that they can maybe talk to a trusted adult. The negative trend could be there's still social taboo around, What is the headache? Headache is the long, lengthy procedure, for example, to go and report in a police station. But the opportunity is maybe there is still online reporting through the Women Child Ministry, where they have an online box, So you can do an e-box reporting, for example. What is their fear? Their fear is maybe I'm going to get married soon. How will it affect my marriage prospects? Or how will my to-be husband, see me or accept me? Or my fear is I'm too afraid to talk about it. My hope, I would really hope that, people around me understand and support me, that kind of thing. So this is a very quick thing. We are going to put you in the breakout rooms. The first exercise is really for you to think about it on your own. And then the next 2 is the persona for the survivor, the persona for the perpetrator. You can do it as a group, right? So any questions before we send you in the breakout rooms?
Yeah, could you show the slide of the perpetrator once again? I forgot
It's
to
the
take a
same
screenshot.
slide as the survivor. We'll post it in your, but I'll just show it to you anyway.
Can the file be dropped onto chat, Elsa?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Also, till Elsa posts that in the chat, the breakout rooms will be like the last time. There'll be breakout room numbers. So as per your team number, please join the breakout room. And in case you're alone because your team members aren't there, we will pair you up with someone else. Okay, so you can still do the exercise. We would still like you to go back and do it with your team members at a, maybe later today or tomorrow. Thanks.
Let me just, I'm just going to, I have to find those files. But any questions till then?
Elsa, I had a question actually. When I was looking at Ritu's presentation, maybe this is a question for both of you. Have you all considered getting voice recordings, or are there challenges with getting voice recordings? Because when language is a challenge, I was just thinking about like what could circumvent the issue of language when recording, or when recording an event online on the app.
So voice recording, I will pitch in and then Ritu can as well. So So basically, voice can be, you can identify a person through voice. So that's one. Second is the storage. It's huge amounts of storage. So those were the two considerations that we wanted to be aware of. But yes, it is a great opportunity to do voice to chat or voice to text. But Indian languages, I don't think there's too much of AI at the moment. And Ritu, maybe you want to step in.
Yeah, it was definitely something we spoke about. There are two things. One is the tension between making tech affordable, right? It is an NGO at the end of it, and adding a voice layer exponentially explodes prices of the tech. The second thing is we are often creating product for people with very poor internet connections and connectivity, and the voice is not an option in those settings.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
And then because it is a very emotionally charged situation, it's challenging to have, as Elsa said, AI do the voice to text, and we do not want any wrong voice to text translations on such sensitive issues. So we decided that there was more risk of misrepresentation of stories than, you know, the actual truth has spoken from the survivor.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, that answers my question.
So only do slides 6, 7, 8, but I've also given the whole PowerPoint, so you know the whole journey that we are going to take, and who are the people who are going to be on the jury, what will be their scoring points, what are they looking for, etc. So yeah, so you have all of it. If no more questions, Tanya, do you want to send everyone to the breakout room?
Yes. So we'll open the breakout rooms. Please join the room number as per your team number. In case you're alone, just hold on for a couple of seconds. We will pair you with someone else.
I've opened the breakout room. Can everyone see the breakout rooms?
It's not allowing me to join. How do I join? I'm in room 1.
Just one sec. Let me check.